Get the red button. Perfect. All right, guys. You know the deal. You know I'm excited about tonight. We got Jared, Mr. J. Rod, from Thunder Valley Raceways, King of the Open Road, cruising. No, I said that wrong, didn't I? It's cruising Oklahoma, King of the Open Road at Thunder Valley
Thunder
Raceway.
Valley. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I'm excited about this. It's going to be a ton of fun. What's cool is like a lot of the guests that I have, I've talked to before, and I've kind of known them. But dude, you and I have never talked human voice to voice. We've messaged, of course, the last couple of weeks, working out a time to get you on and things like that to talk about your event, of course, which you know the deal. We're digging drag and drive events hardcore for 2022, and I think with some of the stuff you've posted, yours is going to be one to watch, man. It's going to be really fun to see. Not just I'm going to leave a little opening here, but not just this event, but maybe some other stuff that's coming in the future too, right?
Yes, sir. That's our plan.
Yeah. So for the folks that don't know, I mean, you have a pretty fast car. You want to tell a little bit of story about kind of how you got your first drag and drive event,
Sure.
And then kind of lead us from there, because I think you said it's 2016, right?
Yeah. So basically, we'll rewind back a little bit further before that. 2012, 13-ish time frame, I got the opportunity to be on Street Outlaws. And with that opportunity led to my relationship with Real Street Performance out of Orlando, Florida. And so we reached out to them. I told them I wanted to build a car at the time that would run high sevens, low eights, could drive anywhere, just kind of do that thing. Well, they built a car and it by far exceeded my expectations. We ended up going 757 at 181 on a stock block, stock head, all that kind of good stuff. And we kind of shocked the import world. Like, car weighed 3,600 pounds with 750s, and it did some, 83 millimeter turbo. So at the time, Real Street was really growing fast. I mean, that company, I think they have like 65 or 70 employees now. So that company was growing pretty fast, and they reached out to me, and they know I work in the car business full time, so I can't take off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like most people. So Jay reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, I want to do drag week in your car." I was like, "Let's fucking do it." Right. So he took the car to drag week. I believe it was 2016. And it really shocked a lot of people. They were leading I don't remember the class, but they were leading the class, and they ended up melting a cylinder head in Indy, and they were able to repair the cylinder head. They made it to the final track. I think it was in Michigan somewhere. It let go again, and it coasted to like an 850 or something. And I think they ended up getting second with that, 850 they had to turn in. And I just heard Jay just kept telling me, like, man, this was a really memorable experience. He's like, we got to drive, we struggled, we overcome so many obstacles. And also during that event, when the car let go, there's a video on 1320. It's got like 4 or 5 million views. It let go at like 180 miles an hour, and it sent him sideways. Oh. And he's sitting in the car, and he's like sliding out of control, pulls the parachute, and he's like, "Oh, you're on fire? I don't want to fucking be on fire," right? You just got to know Jay, right? So I'm sitting at home watching this on the live stream on the Hot Rod Drag Week thing, and all I see is my car go across the finish line, goes like 780s, and then a plume of smoke, and then a fireball, and then I see smoke in the other lane. I'm like, oh, my car is done. Luckily, Jay's a driver and was able to save the car, keep it off the wall, but just completely melted the cylinder head. So he was able to fix that. And ever since then, him and I, kind of going back and forth, we wanted to do one. So we had signed up for Drag Week 2019. I believe, was that COVID? It's all running together. Whatever year COVID canceled Drag Week, we opted to do Rocky Mountain Race Week. And it just so happened to be in Oklahoma. And I think that's where I actually seen your car in Tulsa.
Yep.
And so they brought the white Supra. We brought my green car. I only live about an hour and 2 minutes from Tulsa. So we went up there, and, I was pumped. Little did I know it'd be the most hard, grueling week of my life. I mean, holy shit. So me and my buddy Baylor, we packed in. I think we went like 7. No, we didn't. First day, we went like 8-0. And then Doug Cook was in our class. So Doug and I were kind of going back and forth the first day. He had a little bit of a lead on me. So we left Tulsa, drove into Kansas that night. It was a very memorable drive. We opted to drive throughout the night instead of get up early and drive in the morning, because we were trying to keep the engine temperatures down. So we're cruising, and we had some pretty memorable moments in eastern Kansas, and we get there and we were just fucking zombies. So we go to track.
People don't understand. Like, you don't understand.
Yeah.
Because here's the other side too. Like, the day before, you had driven all day, raced, and then you're like, yeah, dude, let's drive all night. This sounds fun. 31 hours awake. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah. I mean, they don't. We were eating Monsters and Red Bulls, and it still wasn't doing anything. So yeah, we got there, and obviously, I think it was in Salina. The track was trash. Nobody got down the track. I think Gio ended up going like 760 at 204 or some crazy ass shit because it just didn't 60 foot. And, you know, we were still in second place. So we left there and obviously we did it again. We drove throughout the night. And so we were going down I-35. And once we got around Wichita, Kansas, I was like, man, this is the home stretch. I'm from this area. So we turned the GPS off and I was like, hey, we can take some back roads. So we're cruising down this road a little bit east of Wichita. And I have one headlight out of the car because the other headlight is an induction for the turbo. We're cruising 50, 60 miles an hour. And I just see a whole family of raccoons and I just plow them. I just fucking plowed them. So as soon as we hit them, we smelled transmission fluid instantly. And I'm like, oh, that ain't good. And it's just smoking like crazy. So we pull over and I look under and there's just raccoon guts everywhere.
Oh.
And Jay pulls up behind us. And he's like, oh, this is going to be fun. So we like jack the car up. You know, we're scraping raccoon dick off the exhaust pipe. We're cleaning everything off with brake cleaner. And luckily we were able to loop because what it ripped out was the dump valves for the transmission. So he was able to re-loop some of the lines and kind of, you know, MacGyver that thing. We got it back together, kept driving, got to my house at like 7 a.m. that morning after doing that for 2 days. And I hopped in my hot tub as soon as I got home, rinsed off, kind of woke myself up, took an hour and a half nap, and then on to Thunder Valley we went. And Gio and I both went side by side 7-second passes there. And I went like a 7:57, I think, put me leading I think it was called Outlaw Straight Class. And then Gio went like 7:20 at 200. So we had a lot of momentum leaving, you know, Thunder Valley. And we left and, you know, we're hit up Highway 177 there in Eastern Oklahoma. And we pulled over because guess what? I hit another fucking animal. We hit an armadillo. And Gio hit it as well. My buddy Sean and Betty, who was behind me in a Subaru, he hit it as well. So it was just a domino effect. And we pulled over at this little bitty gas station called Jacktown, Oklahoma. And if any of you guys have seen the video we did on YouTube with TRC, it's like an hour documentary this whole week. Jay and I are just sitting there and I kill the car. And he walks up to it and he's kind of listening. And as he says it, he goes, it sounded like your car was percolating water. So what ended up happening is we ended up cracking a sleeve and hydrolocking the block. And so like it's a billet block. So we didn't want to, you know, risk a $30,000-$40,000 engine. So as bad as it hurt, we decided to hang it up. And at this, it was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. We had sat in that parking lot for 2 hours trying to figure out what was going to happen. So we left the car there. I went home and got the truck. Well, Gio and Sean, they just kept chucking on to Great Bend. Well, I mean, they'd been up for 30, 40 hours basically at that point. So they get to Great Bend. I take my car home, get a couple hours of sleep, hop in the van with the family. Me and my buddies, we drove out to Great Bend to support them and then see them. And, you know, Gio, I think, ended up getting second to the guy, the older gentleman that has that white Camaro. I can't remember his name. It was really fast. Tom. So Tom. So, you know, they went into Tulsa. Everything went really well. But after that, like that bug bit me. Like I've been a drag racer, you know, since I was 16, you know, street stuff, 8th mile, Texas 2K, World Cup finals, you know, roll race events. I've done it all, but I've never done a drag and drive event. And the bug bit me and it bit me really, really hard. And so like, I was like, this is cool because, you know, there's always a guy that's faster with a small tire car, whatever, if it's a track driven car. I always run up against that when I race my car because I pride myself on being able to drive it. We do really well. You know, we won Outlaw Armageddon in 2019 with that car. Being an import, that was a pretty big deal. And so I wanted to get back to driving my car, you know, because at some point you have to take a road. You either go full race car and you go Lexan, carbon fiber, like crazy light, tin can, or you kind of keep it like I've kept my car in power windows, power locks, and try to retain some streetability where you can drive it. Well, to me, spending $200,000 or $300,000 on a car that can just sit in a garage and drive 4 or 5 seconds at a time doesn't seem like a lot of fun. So we kept my car pretty street. And then, you know, after that, you know, Rocky Mountain Race Week experience, I was in the middle of COVID. Nobody in Oklahoma, car people, really had anything to do. So I just came up. I was like, I got a decent little social media following. I was like, I'll just post in a Facebook group, see if anybody wants to go do a cruise. So I have a pretty big, I guess you'd call it love for 90s cars. So I got quite a few of them. So we just hopped in my 99 3000 GT. We went to Twin Peaks. My buddy owns. He's like, yeah, you can use my parking lot. Like 50 people showed up. We cruised down to Mount Scott. Let me rephrase that. We didn't really cruise. It was a freaking cannonball run. I mean, we were flying. And we get there, and my buddy Richard Burns, who actually helps me do all the cruising Oklahoma stuff now, that's how I met him. He goes, man, this is a really cool idea, but I'm going to tell you, like, I'm not cool with this. Like, we couldn't keep up. He's like, I'm not cruising my car 100, 120 miles an hour for 45 minutes. And so we got there, and I was like, man, I think we may be on to something. And so, like, I was like, okay, let's do this again the next month. The next month, we had 100 cars. Then 100 turned to 200, 200 to 400. Now we've had one of our events had 4,000 people at it.
That's
So
awesome.
we do these events every month for Oklahoma, and cruising Oklahoma has kind of become, in my opinion, something people look forward to every month. And I try to make it 100% not about money. There is no monetary gain at all for these people. They don't really have to pay. Only time they ever have to pay is if I have it at a track. Obviously, there's going to be a gate for the rental fee, and that's it. These people can go have a great time, have just the cost of fuel, and we basically invade these small towns in Oklahoma. And what's really neat about it is we're putting so much more money in the revenue from taxes. So these schools are getting money. The gas stations are selling out of fuel because people don't think about that. You bring 500 people to a small town, they only got 400 or 500 gallons of gas. It gone.
That's right. Well, and the other side of that too is like it. You know, we were talking about this the other day on one of the live streams. It's like people want to do stuff and people want to drive their cars. People want to take that chance and be out and about. And Drag and Drive does that. Cruises like that do that. And so it's a huge plus to do it. That's cool, man.
Yeah. And cruising Oklahoma, it's neat because it grows. And to me, cars bridge the gap of generations. And so I have one guy that sticks out in my head. He's like 75 or 80 years old and has an older Corvette. And he races it and cruises it with us. And he has so much in common with these 17, 18, 19-year-old kids. And there's no like generational gap or calling him a boomer or any of that stuff. They're just true car enthusiasts enjoying one another. And then, so we did a couple of these, cruising Oklahoma events. And I'm like, man, I'm a drag racer. I was like, I really like the drag and drive stuff. I was like, let's do this deal where we incorporate a cruise into a drag event. And let's call it King of the Open Road. Coder for short. We kind of coined that phrase. And so I reached out to this small town called Cushing, Oklahoma. We use their school parking lot, and I've got a pretty good relationship with a lot of the street outlaw guys. So like Murder Nova came out, his right hand man Danny Parker came out, a lot of the guys came out. We had, I want to say we had like 91 cars our first coder, and me being me, because holidays to me aren't that big a deal, I scheduled it on Mother's Day. And so it really hurt our cruise turnout, but we didn't hit Oklahoma, and we drag raced on the street, 8th mile. And I got people like Kicker and Beachworks, local Oklahoma-owned companies. They kicked in some prizes for them. And we did 100% payback, $50 entry fee, and people had a freaking blast. Yeah. And so we had really, really good feedback from it because it was a one-day event, not a week like Drag Week or anything like that. Yep. And they drove 300 miles that day, all through rural Oklahoma. And we stopped in Watonga, and we had to do a landmark check there, take a picture of the grain silo. So that was in that would have been the spring of last year. So we did a couple cruises throughout the summer. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to Nick Duty at Thunder Valley, and let's do a King of the Open Road, but on a bigger scale. Let's do it at a track. Let's do it a little more sanctioned, yada, yada, yada. We had 133 racers show up. And that's awesome. It was unbelievable. And so we started doing this, and I told Nick, and I don't think Nick really thought I'd bring 133 racers, not including the cruise people that came. I thought he kind of figured 40, 50 people because he gave me a pretty good deal on the track for the rental. And we showed up and we packed the house. We had over 1,000 people through the gate. And what's neat about it to me is I really try to market these events towards the average car guy, not the guy, let's say like me, that has a 7-second Supra and a Viper, stuff like that. The guy that's making a $500 car payment, that has a tune and an intake on his car, that has nowhere to go compete. Yeah. Those guys don't have anywhere to compete. So we made this hard tire class. We had 64 people in that class. Dude, it paid out over $3,000. These guys with 9 or 10 and 11-second cars were racing for $3,000. That's like a small tire pot at a grudge race.
Well, and the cool thing is, especially hard tire racing, because I love that we have a hard tire class at our Drag and Drive and our shootout, because there's nothing cooler than a dude on a 300 plus treadwear tire that's normal all season coming up and ripping off some low tens,
Oh yeah, there's a Buick that comes to mind. It's an older Buick. I'm not real hip on the older stuff. I think it's like a Skylark, like 72. I don't know what he's got done to that thing, but on a hard tire, the car goes 1080s at 130. It's just
that's
consistent.
Awesome.
Every freaking pass.
What's funny is that car probably runs if you were to lay out a draggy at a stoplight, runs 11.1.
Oh, on the street. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely it does. But I had to kind of amend that hard tire class because what happened was only rule was really a tire rule. Well, what happened is we have a lot of, pretty badass exotic cars here. So I was having McLarens and 991 turbo Porsches show up. And so a buddy of mine, Kong, won the first 2 hard tires with this Porsche, And it wasn't fair in my eyes to the guys that have that, Mustang with a hard tire on that's wanting to have fun. So I made a rules amendment where if your car has an MSRP over $75,000, you can't be in hard tire. So
Oh,
we
that's
made,
cool.
yeah. And then we did a high roller class because we had a
Mhm.
twin turbo T1 Lambo come out, 720S McLaren, 911 Porsches, GTRs. We had a lot of really cool cars come out,
Yeah.
but the hard tire guys were still having a blast, but they knew they were outclassed. They knew
Yeah.
those cars, and a lot of these guys had never made a pass at the track. And I did a pro tree, so these guys were cutting like 2-second lights. So it was really interesting to watch. But yeah, we did
Yeah.
that, and it grew. And I was like, man, I really want to do more of these events. So Nick Duty and I at Thunder Valley kind of got together after that, and was like, man, let's do an event together. Like, we'll use Thunder Valley and cross promote it with Cruising Oklahoma, and we'll see how big we can make it. Well, since November to now, Thunder Valley has sold and changed hands. So a new owner's came in, and he's put a ton of money in it, revamping the whole place, return road, restrooms, the track, press box, all new signage. So we're having our event at the end of April through March 1st. It'll be a 3-day event, and it's going to be, I'm sorry, May 1st, not March 1st. So May 1st. And I didn't want to do a week-long event because kind of like you and I were talking before, it costs so much damn money. Like, you've got, especially with fuel now going up through the roof, you've got fuel costs, tire costs, lodging costs, food costs. I mean, it'll cost the average person $3,000 to $5,000 to do an event like Sick Week or Race Week or Drag Week, and that's not including the cost to get your car to, let's say, Michigan or Florida. Like, it's really expensive. Is it the time of your life? I think so. I love those events. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to condense that into 3 days, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where it didn't cost so damn much, and do it at the track. And instead of doing an ET like an average, we're doing heads up racing. So it's kind of neat. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a test and tune on Friday night. So a lot of these people, like I said, have really never made a lot of passes. So we're going to do a test and tune Friday night, and we're going to do kind of a lifestyle event. We're going to have like, maybe a band. We're going to have food. Like, it's going to be a really cool atmosphere. So it gets everybody pumped up for the weekend. Saturday morning, we're going to get there really early. I've already got the whole route crew plan. I'm not going to ruin it for everybody, but it's going to be badass. It's 274 miles, and about 100 of it is going to be on Route 66. But we're going to leave Thunder Valley Raceway Park, and we're going to head through western Oklahoma. And the thing is, you got to make the cruise. We're going to try to start racing by 4 p.m. There's going to be 2 landmarks you got to make a picture with. Come back, and then we're going to start qualifying. So it's not going to be an ET deal. We're going to qualify all these cars, and then we're going to do as many rounds of qualifying we can on Saturday. On Sunday morning, we're going to do one more round of qualifying, and at that point, we're going to take the top 8, we're going to put them in a hat, and we're going to draw for them.
That's awesome.
And we're going to do heads up racing on Sunday for the every class but the index class. So our classes are, we're going to have heavyweight class. It's going to be 4,400 pounds or heavier with the driver.
Dude, I love that. Like, that's such a great idea.
Yeah, because there's a lot of CTSVs and Hellcats and, trucks. And it's just, those guys needed in my opinion, a place to race.
They needed an opportunity.
Where they're not racing a small block Ford Fox body on a 28 Pro that runs, 5.0s with a junkyard 5.3, just those cars are proven and well. So we're going to have heavyweight. We're going to have outlaw class, which is, whatever the hell you want to drive on the street that you don't get pulled over by highway patrol, you can bring it. We're going to have a small tire class, 28, 10, 5 and smaller. We're going to do a hard tire class, of course, and then we're going to have a 9.0, 10.0, 11.0, 12 and 13.0 index classes.
Nice.
And then we're going to do a 6-speed class. So 6-speed to me is a pretty awesome class, especially in the last, let's say, 24 months, where 6-speed racing in general has been out of control. You got guys like Joel Granish, you've got Jonathan out at TIG Performance, you've got I think the other Joel that has the red Mustang. These guys are running 6-second quarter mile passes, actually shifting their car. And so to me, like, just getting it done. So like, I really wanted to make an H pattern class. And it was really popular last event. And honestly, it was probably the most fun to watch because those guys were all over the damn place. So,
and Aaron, you're right around the corner, bro. You need to get in on some of this. Aaron has the Taco Time Fairmont.
Oh, okay. Absolutely. Yeah. I'll be the first. Like, I've only done the one drag and drive event, but like I said, it inspired me so much to start doing these events. And, we're planning on doing at least 2 a year. And, kind of like you and I had talked about, my short-term goal over the next 2 years is to grow the cruising brand into other states. I think every small state in America could benefit from a cruising brand. So if
Yep.
any of you guys are watching this, and let's say in Iowa or Missouri, and think you have the means, the facility, and have the drive to want to do cruising events, please get with me.
Yep.
And I'll kind of give you the recipe for success, because it's working really good in Oklahoma, because I do a lot of footwork with all the local municipalities. I spend hours a week on the phone with these guys, because you get 2, 3, 4, 5, 600 cars together in a town of 3,000-4,000 people. It's a mess.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's an absolute mess. So every town we go to, we'll get a police escort out. We'll hit the open road, and then every little town we travel through, every town's got a Facebook page. So what I do is I get on every little town's Facebook page. I'll post, hey, cruise in Oklahoma, Oklahoma's largest cruise. We're coming through your town. Well, what that not only grows our group, it gives these people in these small towns something they've never been able to experience before. 400 or 500 just cars from Model Ts to Lambos driving through their town. And it's like a rolling parade. So these people will stand out, they'll wave at us, they bring their kids, it's just a really cool deal. And we do that through every town. And then when we get to our destination town, wherever it may be, I negotiate. I talk with the town. I set everything up where we basically don't have any problems that normal car enthusiasts would have. So our event in April, we're doing it in a town called Hennessy, Oklahoma. It's right on Highway 81. And it is going to be control. I'm going to have helicopter rides. We're going to have a burnout contest. We're going to have RC drag racing, drone racing, ATV and side-by-side barrel racing. So we're going to take a rodeo arena, put barrels in it, race them through that. I'm bringing in the full lock drift guys from Oklahoma. There's an industrial park that they're currently paving. They're letting us basically gymkhana this damn town. Yeah. So they're going to like drifting in there. We're going to do, there's just so much stuff we got planned, and for one day in this little town. So not every day for cruising Oklahoma is about a drag and drive, but these guys are getting out and driving 200-300 miles a month. And that, to me, will inspire those guys to spend money on their cars and come to the King of the Open Road events, or come to the Rocky Mountain Drag Week or race weeks, and race in these kind of events. Because like I said at the beginning, like, to me, like putting your car in the trailer, dragging it to the track, doing all that maintenance for 4 or 5 seconds of fun, it just doesn't do it for me.
Well, and the reality is, like, even if you did that, like, you can't, it's just not as much fun. Like, you can't.
I agree. I 100%
it's not
agree.
cool to, I mean, listen, hanging out with Rich Guido, if you don't drive your stuff to the track, you're weak. Like, that dude drove 7,000 miles. Just get in your shit, and shift into drive or shift into one, and just cruise that thing, man.
Yep.
And that's cool. And the cool thing about doing like a monthly event like that is it allows guys to kind of get the bug. And then you do like a larger event like this, 3 days. It lets them get the bug even more to maybe start making passes in that car. Well, now, you know, for all the sponsors that are watching this, those guys go home and they start ordering parts. Those guys go 100%. Home and they start trying to find a shop to tune stuff or install stuff. You know, a lot of times those guys are the ones that do it. So
100%.
Hot Rod Dave, you need to get in on some of this on Cruising North Carolina. And then John, the Narcs cart will be at one of these events in the burnout contest. It won't be at the April event, but it'll be in one of these events for sure.
Yeah. You know, we did an event on Sunday, for instance. You know, the weather was crappy. I had a 90% chance of rain here in Oklahoma. It was 40 degrees and overcast. And it's this big event I've been planning. We have a road race track in Oklahoma called Holt. So I was kind of like skeptical. I was like, I don't think a lot of people are going to show up. We had 375 people through the gate. And awesome. It's a really neat deal, because typically to go to Hallett, you spend $150. It's called a high-speed touring day, and you got to go through a class, and you got to do safety stuff. They let these people on the track for $15. We had we had pace cars, but we call them parade laps. So everybody's like, "Oh, I can't go fast. It's a parade lap." Horse shit. I was at 115 in the straightaways. Like, they let us go crazy. People don't get,
man. Yep.
It was insane.
So we've been to a couple, track days and stuff at Hallett, and like, people don't understand, like, once you're out there, it's, I'm not going to go that fast. Dude, like, you're like, yep, we're doing this. And then the pace car, he's going at like 30% of what that dude can really run at to keep everybody, in a line. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, it's neat. And like, Jennifer and her husband
Dave,
out there.
I'm saying you need to run Cruising North Carolina. You need to run that setup.
And, we would love to get North Carolina. So like, I want to get every small state. Like Texas, it'd be impossible. California, Florida, those massive states. But to me, like the big populous areas, I mean, people may hate me for this, but I have zero interest in going into Houston or Dallas or, the bigger metropolitan areas. I mean, I live in a town of 400 or 500 people. you know, and I don't know. To me, it's just all about small town America because that's where
Yep.
this country thrives at. It's not the big
Yep.
metropolitan areas. It's the guys that are getting their hands dirty, working the oil field, you know, turning ground every day, plowing, you know,
Yep.
it's just the farmers. And that's the way I grew up. And that's, to me, what's so neat about these cruising events is I get these guys that have never been out of Oklahoma City and Tulsa their whole life. They maybe went
Yep.
to OU and they went to Edmond Memorial High School or whatever. And they're like, oh,
Mhm.
I got my R8, right? Well, I take them to
Yep.
some of these roads in these towns. They're like, where the fuck are we going? They're like,
Yeah.
they have no clue.
Yep.
And they're just like, this is absolutely insane. I didn't
Yep.
even know Oklahoma had to offer this.
Yep.
So
Well,
it's
and
just
the
super
cool
cool.
thing about that stuff too is like it gives that guy the chance to get out and kind of beat on his stuff a little bit because it's
Absolutely.
a spirited drive, you know.
Yep.
And so that, yeah, and really to be on that portion of 66, you know, the history that comes along with all of that.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
and being able to, I mean, all the cool old gas stations that are either operational or run down, you know, it
Correct.
all gives a good backdrop for cool shots for people to pop over and grab a shot, get back in
Yep.
line, and keep
Yep.
cruising.
I'll kind of give a little hint away. So on the King of the Open Road, one of our landmarks is going to be Coger, Oklahoma. A lot of people are like, where the fuck is Coger, Oklahoma? Well, if you've ever seen the movie Rain Man, there's a phone booth scene there where Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise are in rural Oklahoma and they stop off and they have to use a payphone. And that gas station is still there, 100% preserved as it was in that movie. It looks like it was from the 1940s. And it's just literally, it's in a three-way intersection in the middle of nowhere, America. And people will be able to stop there, take a picture with them.
Yep.
Even if they, you know, once the event is done, they're always going to have that memory. I went there. I remember when we went there. And do you remember we had that flat tire and we saw that old boy that was riding a horse down the road or whatever it may be? It's the journey along the way, not the race, to me.
Yep. Well, and so you know this from firsthand experience. If you're going track to track in like a drag week scenario, it's way different than like the Oklahoma City to Tulsa trip is what, 3 hours, 2 hours, something like that, right?
Yeah, just depending on you have to take back roads or I-44, yeah.
Right. So, but typically, if you were trying to get to either city from the other city, you're not taking the back road to go on a Saturday afternoon to go shopping that night or whatever.
No, you're taking I-44.
You're like and 86 miles an hour and you're hammered down.
Yeah. You miss so much of America.
Yep. Yep. But you end up on these events and you end up around spots you've never seen. And just like you said earlier, people have lived here forever and they don't understand. Oh, man. And then they go back home and they get those kids or the wife or spouse or girlfriend or husband or whatever, and they get back in the car and they're like, hey, we're going over here. We're going to swing through here on our way to Oklahoma City or Tulsa or Texas
100%.
next week.
Yep. I have so many people every month, they'll message me like, hey, I just want to let you know, thank you for taking us to wherever we go, because I've taken my kids back to there and we ate at this restaurant and it's the coolest place in the world. And we've met Sally, the waitress there. And it's just, these people are making memories they would have never made before until someone kind of gave them a route to take. And, you know, to me, I enjoy it so much because I'm a pretty hardcore Okie at heart. I mean, I was born and raised here. I was played sports here in college, and like I am like as Oklahoma as it gets. And so for me, there's a lot of people that are not from Oklahoma that live here that are transplants. That, like you said, they don't know this stuff exists. So I get to show people our great state, and I want other people like me, you call them influencers, whatever, in other small states to be able to do the same thing. We started a cruise in Arkansas already, and my buddy Markel is going to be heading it up. You and I kind of talked about that. He's been super busy filming the new Street Outlaws America's List because he's the film crew that does that. And as soon as he gets back, he said he's got one, plan. So my goal is to get Arkansas and Kansas and Missouri. Yeah. And so hopefully by the end of the year or next year, we can have a regional King of the Open Road. So we can do 4 or 5 states and maybe make it a week if people want that. If not, we'll just keep it the 3-day event. And then likely down the road is what I'd really like to do is Oklahoma, Kansas, Iowa, Louisiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, do basically kind of a streetcar takeover style event where I travel around and basically get all these events and all these routes pre-planned for the whole year, negotiate with the track, try to get it as cheap as we can so it's not such a financial burden on these people, and give these people in other states like Oklahoma has been fortunate to have with these coder events, something that they can get out and do and plan for every year. And they can go out and make that memory with their wife or their spouse or their kids in the back seat. You don't need a 1,000 horsepower car to have fun. You don't have to have any horsepower. You just get out there and cruise.
Right. Well, and like Dave says, he would run that deal. Like what's so cool about, you could almost mix it up in explanations like Power Tour and Streetcar Takeover. Like
Correct.
because Power Tour doesn't make a loop; it goes point to point. Where like Drag Week and all the drag and drive events have to make the loop because your truck and trailer that you
As
drug
back
in
at
your
home.
fast
Yeah.
car. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, with this kind of deal, I mean, you start thinking about like Oklahoma City and Tulsa, and then you've got a big track in Kansas City. You've got St. Louis, and all the tracks that would be in between those areas, and on into Kentucky and
Correct.
Tennessee. Memphis. I mean, if you want to go that far south, I mean, all that kind of cool stuff that you can do.
Yeah. Absolutely. And here's the deal. If people don't get out and support these local tracks, we're going to lose them. We're losing them at an alarming rate already. You know, you look at like Atco and all the East Coast stuff, because obviously I'm an import guy, right? So like that's the home of import racing in America is the East Coast. So those guys up in New York, New Jersey, they don't have a place to really go race because the land is worth so much damn money that they're selling the land to build, industrial complexes, housing additions, whatever the case may be, and they're losing their tracks. So one thing in the Midwest that we're pretty fortunate about is land is a little cheaper. So hopefully we don't lose our tracks. But here's the deal. If people don't go out and support them, we're going to fucking lose them. Like we have to support these people. I mean, it's not cheap to run.
And even just going to watch, a big race or a bracket race or anything, Mocan, we consider it our home track because that's where we host all of our events. And love those guys, but I go up there maybe 3 times a year. I need to do that more often. Everybody does.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Danny says Iowa has added two tracks in the last 10 years. So that's kind of a cool spot. Iowa would be pretty neat.
I would love to do an event in Iowa. Absolutely. Like I've driven through Iowa, played some college golf there, but I've never really spent any time in Iowa. So that's another thing for me is, just like anybody, like we want to do what we enjoy for a living, right? So like to me, my goal is to be able to watch my kids grow up and do race car stuff, right? So like there's so many people out there that are living that dream, like, like Doug Cook and Garrett Mitchell. And there's so many people that have figured out how it works for them. And that's basically what I'm trying to do. I think I'm onto something. And with these King of the Open Road events, and I want to my deal is I just want to make them as cheap as possible. Like I don't want these people having to spend $1,000, $2,000 to go drag race their car. Because that's not what it's about. I wanted to make it economical and have a great time. Yep.
So just so everybody knows, if you would share this, that would be awesome because obviously we want as many people to attend that event as possible, but we also want, as many people to hear the story and where you want to go with this stuff as possible too. So if everybody could share it, make sure you're hitting the like button, all that kind of social media crap, please do it. So just announced today, Rocky Mountain Race Week or Race Week. So 2.0 for everybody that's paying
attention. Lost a track, right?
Yeah, lost a track today.
Yep.
They just basically posted on social media they're not going to open this season. I mean, like
crazy.
I can't imagine being in Matt's shoes right now. He's probably so mad.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine. He's scrambling to find a new track right now.
Yeah, and that kind of stuff happens, and that changes the entire route of the event. Now where do you go? Where do you go from there to try and get a spot that somebody that is a big enough track to where they could handle cars that run 6s and 7s.
Yep. That's the deal. Like we leave next week to go down to TX2K. It's my, I don't know, 15th, 16th year in a row going, but this will be our last event in Houston. They're selling Houston Raceway Park to build a fucking Amazon distribution center on it. It just blows my mind.
You couldn't put that another 10 miles down. Nope. Got to be right here. Got to be right here, right on that track.
That racetrack is such a phenomenal facility. And
that's crazy. I didn't know that, dude, because I don't follow the Texas 2K stuff very much. Wow. Well, now I may have to go, man. It's my birthday. So
come on. Yeah. It's a great event. It's definitely a higher end event. There's a lot of Lambos and Ferraris and GTRs and Vipers. But man, like I remember going to that event in the 09, 2010 era. And it was unfreaking believable. We would get out on I-10, 50, 60 cars. We would race and we'd look up and we're like, oh shit, we're 180 miles from the hotel because we've been racing at 100 plus miles an hour all night.
Yep.
And it would just, it's just a cool event, man. It's
Richard, let me talk to the wife. So I've got an event in May that I'm going to, and I'm trying to make your event. So I'm starting to stack some stuff here pretty tight. We've got our event, the first part of April. I don't know if I need to be gone that much, but it sure would be fun. And it's my birthday. I mean, come on now,
Absolutely.
If it's your birthday, what's funny is Richard Martinez is one of my neighbors right down the street, and he has a super nice Supra. I don't know what generation, Mark 4, 3. is your body style?
Mine
What's that called? Yeah.
or Richard's? Mine's a Mark
Well,
IV.
yeah. So his is the same body style. I don't know anything
Okay.
about that kind of stuff. So yeah, he's single turbo conversion and
Yeah, that's the way
automatic
to
to
do it.
manual, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty
That's
neat. It's
badass. I mean,
super nice car. Yeah.
3 liters
So
of fury, baby. I mean, where else can you make that kind of power out of 188 cubic inches?
I'm telling you, man, it's awesome. And we were talking the other day about how much technology has helped the automotive scene.
Oh,
Like, just think of like how cool it was in the 60s and 70s with all that stuff. I think we're fixing to relive all of that
yep.
because everybody that is old enough that wanted cool cars or followed cool cars in the late 90s, early 2000s,
Yep.
now we have that ability to buy those cars and build them and things like that.
Yep. And that's why we've seen such an influx of pricing, let's say on cars
Yeah.
like Supras, IROC
Yep.
Zs, WS6 Trans Ams, all the stuff
Yep.
that, that people, I'm 37 years old. I'll be 38
Yep.
this year. So it's a cars that I grew up playing on Gran Turismo,
Oh yeah,
as
dude.
weird as that sounds,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
In the comments, guys, how many Gran Turismo cars, from PlayStation 1 do you
Yep.
still dream about?
Yeah. And I'm very fortunate to be able to be in a position. That's exactly what I've done. Like people are like, oh, you have all these cars, but where's your Lambo? I'm like, I don't want no fucking Lambo.
Yep.
I want an Evo, an STI, a WS6,
Yep.
3000 GTs, RX-7s, and I'm fortunate enough, I've been able to acquire most all the cars that,
That's
I'm
cool.
really passionate about. And
Yep.
I'm, continuing to acquire more. And I'm just so fortunate to be able to do so. And I don't know, it's just once cars get in your blood like they are, like you
Yep.
can't get that shit out. Like it's
Yep.
addictive.
Well, and these events, I was thinking earlier while you were explaining the 3 day stuff, an event like that will only make somebody want to do a week-long event at a different
Correct.
area of the country so much worse.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, he's Richard said the CRX and Supra were always his go-to on Gran Turismo.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. The
Yep.
CRX is another cool.
And that's what he owns right now. He owns 2 CRXs and the Supra right now. So
That's
it's pretty
cool.
Yeah, man. It's funny that I think we're probably the first generation of adult men that grew up playing those
Video
games,
games,
and then had the opportunity.
100%.
John said he
Absolutely.
picked up a 04 Mustang with the 4-valve swap. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, one of his favorite cars when he was young.
I mean,
that's
I've
cool,
never
man.
been a domestic guy. Like I grew up in like I said, Fast and Furious. I graduated high school in 2003. My dad
Yep.
told me, he's like, man, if you get a full scholarship in golf, I'll buy you any car within reason. That reason was a $10,000 3000 GT non-turbo, right? He could have bought me a Mustang or a Z28, but we went that way because of that movie.
Yep.
And it changed my life, right? Like that changed my whole path of my life. I could have been a domestic guy like everybody else in Oklahoma, but I was the one oddball that we wanted to race imports. And it was just, it's just crazy how things like that can change your life. And you have no recollection of that happening at that point in your life, but it's a big part of your life.
Yeah. Yep. What haven't we covered, dude?
I don't know. I mean, we've talked about cruising Oklahoma. We've talked about the king of the open road.
What class are you most excited about, or maybe a car that is signed up that you're most excited about for the event?
There's a few. I love watching the hard tire and the stick shift guys because they're sketchy and it's badass.
Yeah.
I love it. And so a few of the cars, my event, so I'm able to see who's kind of signed up through thefote.com. And so basically I'm really excited about my buddy Jay from Real Street. He's making the trek from Florida and he's been building this Fox body. He's had it for a long time and he's been redoing it, having it repainted, putting a Motec in it. Well, he's bringing it out and racing it stick shift. So I'm really excited about that. And, me having such a strong import background, I've kind of been rattling some trees, and I've got a guy coming from Pennsylvania with an all-wheel drive, low 8, high 7-second Civic. And so he's going to come out here and compete in his first drag and drive event. There's another all-wheel drive Civic local that's going to come out and compete, and it runs 8s. And then you got people like Cody Hoffman with the ICP billet, drag truck. He's going to be doing it. We've got there's so many good local people. I know like Murder Nova told me if he can make it, he's coming. Danny Parker, his right-hand man's already signed up for it. Ryan
awesome.
Martin told me the same thing. He's like, man, if we're not filming, I'll be there. Farm Truck and Asian, same thing. So as long as those guys aren't filming, they're going to be there. We did an event in December. Chuck came out, Dave came out, Ryan came out, Sean and Danny came out. we did a big toy drive for a little town here in Oklahoma, and they came out and made a huge impact. We donated. It was massive. It was like a full 18-wheeler of toys to all
Come
local Oklahoma
on.
kids. I wanted to do it where I didn't want to, okay, we're going to take this for Toys for Tots. And I don't know where that
Yep.
stuff goes. It could end
Yep.
up in Indonesia. I don't know. So we did
Yep.
all this right here, and we donated all to local
Yep.
charities all in Oklahoma. It was really neat because we were able to make it a difference with our cars. So it's kind of neat.
Yeah. And so we do a ton of stuff with like the Northwest Arkansas Children's Shelters, who we typically, well, it's who we only do our events for now because we only do 2 a year. And I always say it's the worst way to probably say it, but I want those kids to know somebody out there gives a shit.
Yep.
And I want them to know that the car community is generally full of really good people.
Yep, absolutely. And that's what we did. We had all those overflow donations, but what we did is I contacted the superintendent at the local school. I go, how many kids do you have in your elementary school? It's like 317. I was like, you send a note home. Every one of those kids is going to get 5 toys. He's like, what?
That's cool.
And so sure enough, the whole gym, they gave us the gymnasium. So we didn't have to stand out in the cold. So the school worked with us, the local charities, the local police, and it was a really, really cool deal.
Yep. It's amazing, man. It's really cool. It's going to be fun to watch the, because obviously, I mean, I've known who you are, but, really paid attention because of the coder events. And so it's going to be cool to, like, now that I'm going to dive into that world and start seeing all that stuff on social media, it's going to be fun to
it's neat
next year.
For sure. Yeah. We're only going to keep growing that. And like I said, like, I think drag and drive events are the future. Like, people are going to get tired of like driving their, 2,000 horsepower cars and some bitches blowing up all the time. Right. Yeah. Like, you get no enjoyment out of that. It costs you a shit ton of money. You blow it up, you do it again. Like, it's just, it's what we do.
Let's say this, because your car's cool. Okay. Is it cooler for you to see the 10 kids at the drag strip say how cool it is? Or is it cooler to pull into like a Sonic parking lot and people lose their ever loving mind, or you pass a school and they're like on the window, oh my God, what is that?
Oh yeah. It's just so much better to me. Absolutely. We do, I've kind of ventured out on the YouTube venture, like a lot of guys. I've been hosting TRC videos for a long time, but we started a new one called J-Rod's Garage. It's done really well. It's been up for about 6 or 7 months. We got 15,000 subscribers.
Come on.
But we did a video where me and my son, who's 6, we hooked a bass boat to my Supra. We drove it an hour away and we went fishing. Like, you can't do that with most 2,000 horsepower cars that run bottom sevens. We drove all around Oklahoma pulling a damn boat, and we caught fish. Like, it was memorable. And it's just a really neat deal that something that I'll be able to look back on when I'm old and he's old, and we'll always be able to remember that. It's pretty special.
Well, and here, I'll tell you this story, and I'll say it every time, but documenting that kind of stuff is where it's at. Because, like, if I had not been recording all the videos for Narcoleptic, we wouldn't have videos of my dad. And there'll be a point where your kid will go back and watch those videos of you and him running around in J-Rod's garage, and like it'll make a big difference. So it's really cool.
I agree with you 100%, because here's the deal. Our parents, they didn't have the ability to video with their camera phone. It was, you got to get the big old thing like this out and you're filming it. And, they have these VHS tapes that are obsolete now, you can't use. And like, it just, and those things were expensive back then.
Oh yeah. Well, so funny story. My grandmother bought one when I was like 12 years old. And so I carried that thing a ton, talking to everybody in the family, right? Well, her house caught fire, and water from those guys putting it out ruined 90% of those videos. Because, I mean, we went through hundreds of videos. Yeah, so like we've got a few that are kind of fun, and then you'll watch it and it'll get all squirrely and then maybe come back. So, it's definitely the digital age is nice.
Yep, it's the first generation, the last 10 or 15 years that have been able to experience that. It's just neat because we just never had that in prior generations, and now we can do that with our kids and with our cruising people and our drag and drive events, and you can just record your whole life now and have it at the blink of a hat. Yeah,
Richard, definitely reach out to Jared Holt if you want, if you want to help in some way. I'm sure with events, I'm sure he's always looking for volunteers or workers or somebody like that. Richard has helped us a ton on some of our social media stuff too.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
He lives in Iowa, which, like Danny said earlier, has some new tracks. So
it sounds like Iowa's a place we need to bring a coder event to.
Yeah, right. That's exactly what it sounds like. May even have a team up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because like it's me and about 5 or 6 people are close friends of mine that do these.
But it's northern Missouri, right? I think. Yeah.
I would love to get a cruise in Missouri. I reached out to a buddy of mine in Joplin, but Joplin's so close to Oklahoma that it doesn't make a lot of sense. And here's the deal: like, to get these events going in other states, you need someone with a vast knowledge of back roads and towns and municipalities, and it's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of your time, but it's so rewarding because you're able to give back to the car community, and it's pretty neat.
Well, and one of the biggest benefits too is like, there's always a pretty big town, like Little Rock or Memphis is close enough, Northwest Arkansas is big, things like that. So you can always move that event around a little bit to hit new people, let the people that have been coming get a new experience too.
100%. Absolutely. It's super neat.
Yep. Cool. Anything else we need to talk about? I don't want to keep you. I've got to get to wrenching on my old truck. We're trying to get it ready for the April 8th event.
Oh,
and I've
I
got
get
to
it
put leaf
completely.
springs in that bastard. So
no, we've been working on. My buddy's been wiring in a kicker system in I bought my wife a Supra, so she has a '98 Supra now to go cruising with us. So he's been working on that all day, and it's probably time to drink a beer and sit in the hot tub.
Dude, hey, I've been drinking beer right here, so I'm in. Well, hey, thank you so much. Listen, you'll get tired of talking to me. If you ever do, just tell me, hey, leave me alone for a little bit. But I definitely want to stay in touch with all the stuff that you got coming up. Love to have you back on. Obviously, you have tons of stories we didn't get into tonight that we need to tell, and all that. So let's run through the chats real quick, make sure we don't have anything. Danny says Bethany has a strip. Oh, I guess Bethany, Iowa, 40 miles over the border into Missouri from Iowa. And then Richard said he'd hit you up. So
thank you so much.
Yeah, that's exciting. Hopefully this will help grow and spark some stuff in other states, and I would love to see that, because then you could, just like you said, I mean, dude, you start talking about like if each state had its own coder event, you could take the winners and have
we thought about that. Have a big one, because here's the deal: if you're cruising 300 or 400 cars and then you're racing 200 cars, it's a 500 car cruise, right? And then you get there and half of the cruise isn't racing, but they're there to support their friends and fellow cruise members that are racing. And it's just such a brotherhood. It's just super neat.
Yep. That's what's cool. All right. Stay with me. Guys, I do want to say thanks for hanging out with us. This is probably one of our most watched episodes so far, and I can't wait to see what it does in the next couple of days. Thanks for everybody that's made comments over there. The Daily Dose of Drag and Drive, I'm recording it after I get back inside tonight. Got a ton of updates for race week, like we talked earlier, with the track being gone, and what I think that will do to the event. Midwest Drags is 90 days away, so we got a lot of stuff coming up from that. 815 is asking you if you need media coverage. You know the answer to that. It's always yes.
Always yes.
Always is.
Always yes.
Just come on. And then
I will say this for media coverage. I know Richard Burns, my buddy, helps me do these. He is my media guy. I don't have time. Like, if you're interested in it, let me know. I can get you with Richard. He'll get you the credentials and anything you need to come cover the event.
Cool. Yeah, I'm working to see if Jonathan Stonecipher will let me ride with him, which I think would be a ton of fun. Him and I rode 2.0 2020 together in his Nova. He's building a little 4-door Malibu now, so it'll be a ton of fun. So, all right, y'all, thank you very much. Jared, stay with me. I'm gonna end this broadcast. Y'all, I'll see you when I see you. I don't know, probably tomorrow on the Daily Dose.